welcome to whichever the case might be, the Investor Guys podcast. This grinning gentleman in front of you is
Right.
Bill Barnett, and I am, of course, Kevin Mills, and we are the Investor Guys, and this is the Investor Guys podcast. So, welcome or welcome back, whichever the case may be. And usually we banter back and forth about all kinds of silly things and don't really get into our topic until our second segment. But I'm going to throw the baseball straight to Bill and let him jump off on our topic today.
We're going to try to be a little bit more more expedient getting into our content today. One of the things that I want to touch base on today, Kev, was watch the National Association of Realtors. What are they saying is the regional outlook around the country? Now, this came out a couple of days ago, but I thought it was worth bearing, just so that investors around the country can know what is being looked at the traditional market. So one of the reasons I love the National Association of Realtors information based on just what comes in the news is that the news is typically focused on new home builds. And new home builds are a tiny fraction of the real estate transactions every year. So if you go, once a home is sold, it's no longer a new home. Just like you buy a car, you drive it off the lot, you buy a brand new one. The minute it leaves the lot, it's now a used car. Same thing with housing. You build a brand new house. Once it's sold one time, it now goes into the existing home inventory and is no longer considered a new home, even though it may have been built 2-3 months ago. So that portion, the new home or the new house market, is a tiny, tiny fraction of the overall market or the existing home market. So when we go with the news off of mainstream media, typically that's all about new home sales. When you go with the National Association of Realtors, typically, unless otherwise specified, that's all about existing home sales. So the regional outlook right now, so for folks in the Northeast, the regional outlook for that section of the country for 2024 is so far through the end of February, sales have been unchanged compared from month to month, but down from last year. Okay, so month to month, January, February were the same, total of 480,000 units sold over those 2 months. However, same period last year, down 5.9% from last year. Now, here's the crazy thing. In 1 year, median price in the Northeast sector jumped 10.1%. Median price for that part of the country is now considered to be $434,300. So jumped 10.1% in the last 12 months. But take deep breath, chill out, relax. If you listen to Biden, he'll tell you that's all BS. There is really no inflation, or it's just tiny. So your house going up 10%, really, you shouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, your eggs have gone up 50 and 60%. So why shouldn't your house just 10?
So now Midwest sales went up in that same period. Sales went up 2.2%. And the Midwest, a lot more active, 950,000 units for the same period, but again, down from last year. And the Midwest was down 3.1%. Median price in the Midwest, 271,700. That's up 7.6% in 12 months. In the South, 4% climb or raise in sales. And the sales were down, but only 1.6%, which is pretty good compared to the other sectors, but 1.6% compared to last year. And median price is up 4.1% to 345,100. And then the West Coast, the sales up a little bit, 4.3%, but you look at the median price jumped on the West Coast up to 572,100. That's a 6.3% increase. So the South is the one that really had it the best over the last few year to date, year over year, not year to date, year over year in price increase, only going up 4.1%. The Midwest actually went up 7.6. And then, as we said earlier, the Northeast went up 10.1, and then out west 6.3. So the South going up 4.1% in price in 1 year. Gee, that's to be celebrated compared to the rest of the country. But this is what's happening with pricing. So what happens is you have prices go up, you have interest rates being higher, and the market tends to cool, and it's kind of a sticker shock issue. People are like, oh wow, I could felt like I might got a little bit bigger house last year when I was looking than I could get right now. But wow, with these interest rates, I can't afford that. I can't afford the house now, and I couldn't afford it if I'd have bought it last year at these rates. So they're looking at what's going to happen with the rates. Rates have become a little more stable, and we are looking at a rate drop as we get closer to the election. It's they'll push the administration will push the Fed to drop rates, to push them down, to make them look better, to try to help fool us enough that we would vote for them again. And so hopefully, as you see rates come down, if that's something that works for you, you're in a position you need to buy it, lock it in, buy it. But don't buy into anything else, into the BS part of it. Just buy into getting a little bit lower rate. So about used up the whole segment there, dude. Let me get your feedback on that, Ken.
That's fine. I was take a little nap here. No, I'm absolutely fine. This is the information we wanted to get out that we're talking about leading up to on Tuesday. So it is important. If you didn't catch Tuesday's show, make sure you catch Tuesday's show, because we pointed out that simple things like just interest rate aren't necessarily going to drive traffic or drive demand down for housing. As we can see, the interest rate went up this last year, and you can see that at the same time, demand also went up, as in some places more than 10%. So it doesn't hinge on one factor. A lot of people, and I heard it, and I know Bill heard it, because anybody in the real estate industry heard it when interest rates were going to go up. This is gonna kill the real estate industry. This is gonna kill home buying. This is gonna kill this. This is gonna kill that. Bill and I are both familiar with builders that literally stomped on the brakes last
Yeah.
June, last July, when they heard interest rates were going to come up. They stopped building. They slammed on the brakes, stopped acquiring property, let whole divisions go, and now they're out there gang busting even more so than they did just a couple of years ago when the interest rates started going up. So we are up on a break. We'll be back in just a second.
Thank you for watching the Investor Guys podcast.
Live the resort lifestyle every day with Cayman K. The perfect pieces for every wardrobe. Shop the entire Cayman K collection and find your favorites. Find all our styles at CaymanK.com.
Absolution X. Lifestyle apparel like no other. Limited editions. Unique, exclusive designs. Seek your absolution. Get yours. Only at AbsolutionX.com.
Thank you for watching the Investor Guys podcast.
The Investor Guys podcast will be back shortly.
We are, and today we're talking about just how real estate will increase and decrease in value, regardless of what we think is going to make it increase or decrease in value. There are a lot of factors that people like to say, put their finger up, like the old sailor used to do, and say, it's coming. We're going to have a real estate bust, or, oh, it's coming. We're going to have a real estate boom, based upon single factors like, say, interest rates. And we saw that interest rates had very little effect on demand for real estate since they started going up almost to a year, actually a year and a half ago, a little more than a year and a half ago. It didn't change anything. What we do see is politics driving our real estate demands right now. Politics is playing a huge part, not just in real estate, but a lot of products that people are buying now and not buying, depending upon which political side you seem to prefer. There are whole companies that are literally geared towards certain political parties because of their loyalties and their dislike for other types of things. And then we see companies like Bud Light and Target and other companies making decisions, political decisions that are affecting their bottom line. Some of them learn from their mistakes. Some of them continue with their political agenda, and it affects the bottom line. It affects their shareholders, and we see their shares dropping.
Yeah. And some of them are arrogant enough to say, if you don't like what we're doing, don't buy it. And hey, Bud Light,
So,
Anheuser-Busch, you can run all the old Clydesdale ads you want to. We know who you are now. I never drank Budweiser ever anyway. Anheuser-Busch has never been, if they didn't exist, I wouldn't even notice it other than what's been going on with them and their idiocy campaign. But I hope Americans stay away from them and teach some of these. It's a crazy thing. If I was an investor in Anheuser-Busch, I would be suing the company as a shareholder.
10, 15
They're
years
not
ago,
making decisions that are in the best interest of the shareholder. They're making decisions politically based, which are not in the best interest of the performance of the company. And there's a lot of companies, I think, that may have opened themselves up to that. But when we look at real estate, I tell this to new investors all the time, because especially newer investors, and new could be 2013. They could be having done this for 10 years. They've never seen a real down market, and they flip out. Well, all this is over now. It's like, no, this is a cycle. And no matter what's going on politically, the cycle would hit anyway. Politics may make the down cycle go a little deeper, may make it last a little longer. It may shorten it. Doesn't matter in that scheme of things. It was going to happen anyway because we got a longer run historically than we normally do. We got a 10-year up run. That's a long time for upward trends in real estate. And we got a solid 10 years out of this run. Now, we're not through with the run yet, but it is a cyclical business as all. There are no businesses that I'm aware of that don't have cycles. Even utility companies have seasonal cycles where they use more and use less. But big businesses that are based on longer term items like housing, you're always going to have a cycle. And if you understand the cycle, you can adjust your business so that you continue to profit. You can't stay in a business forever and do exactly the same thing all the time and it work all the time. So when the market starts to change like this, you start to look at, what is that telling me about my real estate investing business? So there are a couple of things that can be going on right now as we move forward and things do start to cool off. As the market looks like it's falling apart, that's when you want to be accumulating. That's when you want to be picking up buy and hold properties. And you want to be picking up rental properties, because as rates go up, as pricing goes up, and more people are moved out of the market, rental property becomes a great place to be. I don't want to take up all of this, but I've got a comment on first-time home buyers. They're really taking it in the shorts right now. Still a lot of demand from first-time home buyers out there. This is a quote from Lisa Sturdivant, and she is the chief economist over at Bright MLS. But hey, so many are being shut out of the market due to rising home prices and elevated mortgage rates. The wealth gap in the US, which is already very high, will widen as existing homeowners and higher income households are able to enter into home ownership, while lower income and prospective first time home buyers and first generation households are increasingly getting pushed out of the market. In other words, just the cost of entry is getting higher and higher, and that's going to affect a lot of people. And it's going to have negative impact on first time buyers, and it's going to have a positive impact if you are a landlord, if you are owning rental property.
Yeah, and Bill just nailed it exactly. The same thing I always say. It doesn't matter whether the market is going up or market is going down. If you are a real estate investor, if it is a buyer's market, then you try and sell. If it's a seller's market, you try and buy. Somewhere in between there, or on both extremes, you get properties that you're going to buy and hold that are going to benefit from those. One last thing that I want to talk about in our last segment, when we get there, we're almost there, is how certain segments of our real estate market are literally changing, maybe even just shriveling up, and some of the ways that we can take advantage of those changes. And those are changes that have nothing to do with our current interest rate. They have nothing to do with literally the supply and the demand for residential properties. They are commercial properties and they are office buildings, and that dynamic has literally changed over the last few years.
Yep.
Where for different reasons, retail is not in as much demand as it used to be. A lot less demand. And office space is in a lot less demand. And we do see those factors being driven politically in a lot of places, but we also see that just as a factor of what happened with COVID, and we'll cover that when we get back from this next break.
You are watching the Investor Guys podcast.
Absolution X, limited editions, lifestyle apparel like none other. Get yours today at absolutionx.com.
Live the resort lifestyle every day with Cayman K. The perfect pieces for every wardrobe. Shop the entire Cayman K collection and find your favorites. Find all our styles at CaymanK.com.
Thank you for watching the Investor Guys podcast.
And we are back. And just before we left, we teased you a little bit about talking about commercial properties and office space. And COVID changed our office dynamic. Before COVID, people had no idea what remote or hybrid meant. And now that people have worked in remote and hybrid and at home, a lot of them don't want to go back to the traditional go into the office 5 days a week. Maybe call out a day if you feel like not going because you're sick. But being in the office 5 days a week and having to get dressed and having to shower and having to shave and having to do all those things that you do when you go into the office. There are literally employees who have protested their companies requiring them to come back. Banks, Goldman Sachs, Chase Manhattan. We've seen it from Amazon. We've seen it from Google. We've seen it from Facebook. There was another company in the news just the other day. I think the IRS. The IRS was was requiring that their agents now work from home in a hybrid model, which would be 3 days or 2.5 days. Actually, I think it was. I'm not sure how you're going to do 2.5 days at the office. I guess it's possible. 2.5 days at the office and 2.5 days from home. And we literally have congressmen saying that that requirement is going to kill the IRS. How's it going to kill the IRS? For
I hope they're right.
100+ years that we've had the IRS, they have worked from offices or they have worked in the field from an office. The the point of the story is we don't have as much demand for office space. I have
Yeah.
brokers that represent clients that have office space, and they are scrambling to do two things: find tenants for their office space and to unload the office space that they have because they can't find tenants for them. The other thing that we're seeing is retail. Amazon, Walmart online, just
Yeah.
Shopify, all the other online availability for pretty much every single product that you want. People are buying groceries online. You can get your groceries within a couple of hours of making that phone call. And those groceries don't come necessarily from a grocery store. A lot of times they come from a distribution center. They don't have to have the staff there to meet and greet people, to man cash registers, to watch for theft, to keep the lights on, to fix the things that are broken, to clean the floors, to do everything else that a warehouse has. If you can order your products that you need on a day-to-day basis, and you don't mind waiting for an hour or two, or maybe a day or two for that product, uh, you virtually don't have to leave your home. So if you're working from home for the IRS and you don't have to go into the office, why would you get out of your pajamas and go shopping at the grocery store? You might as well just have Amazon deliver it, or Kroger, or Publix, or whoever happens to be around you. It's it's a sad testament in a lot of ways, not just because our retail, is going away, our in-person retail, and because our office space is going away, but we basically have created a bunch of hermits, and I'm not sure if that's the right term for a female also, but who just stay inside. They
Hermitess.
venture out into the light of day because they feel more comfortable in front of their digital screen,
Yeah.
living life in front of their digital screen day in and day out. That's their social life, that's their work life, that's uh, their entertainment. That's how they go out and they acquire their goods that they need. It's I don't think I'll be around for it, but I'd hate to see the way things are going to look in 40 or 50 years. What's the fitness rate going to be for our country?
We can't imagine. We
Uh,
can't imagine what it's going to be like. We can't imagine what it's going to be like in 20 years.
Well, 20
And you
20
look
years,
at,
I may still be around. So
yeah, you look at what has happened in the last 20 years, and wow, nobody saw the changes that COVID brought. And there will be other events that happen that are going to bring just as sweeping changes into the world. And we're at that point where information is growing at such an incredibly fast rate. It's staggering. And look, if you've got a phone, you've got, an incredibly powerful computer that all I can access just about any piece of information in the world. Yeah, if it's not something I do regularly, it might take me a little bit of time to look for it. But prior to, I couldn't get it at all. Now I can get that stuff. And insane the effect it's going to have, new technology on real estate is really going to be more interior, in my opinion, as opposed to exterior, from a standpoint of exterior being the business that you and I go through on a regular basis. Yep, more and more stuff is being done online. The overwhelming number of homes sold are first viewed online, and they may find a way to successfully replace real estate agents with online. But at some point, for the most part, you buy a house, you want to walk through it. You want to see what that neighborhood looks like in person. Because if you haven't experienced it, Kevin and I have experienced it multiple times, where you look online and the pictures look one way, then you get to the house in person and you're like, wow, it looks way different because they used old pictures. And that is not going to change. We're going to have to, at some point, not be the hermit, see the property, or have somebody see it that we have total faith and confidence in, so much so that we would hand them our our credit card or debit card or checkbook, however you want to refer to it, because that's virtually what we're doing when we take their word for it.
And just to put some context into this, when Bill and I started doing real estate, one of the ways we would look for real estate is literally getting in the car and driving around. We would drive through neighborhoods and we would look for signs because the internet wasn't what it is now.
And
Market.
it wasn't what it is now. It didn't exist
Well,
when we got started.
for a good period of time, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it depends on who you ask. Al Gore says he invented it way back in the 70s. So,
And then we had MLS books.
yes,
That's not an MLS book. I wish I still had one.
I did. They look like a phone book, and
Yeah.
depending upon the market that you were in, that phone book could be really, really thick. Sometimes our MLS, my mom was a real estate agent, and she would bring home these MLS books, and I would just flip them open. They'd all be printed in black and white.
Yep.
You know, in our market, they were yellow and white, blue covers, depending upon, you know, I don't know what, but the colors would change. And it was as thick as the yellow pages and the white pages combined. It was a big, giant, thick book. And I think back and I'm like, man, I am so glad I didn't have to do real estate in those days. As an agent, flipping through that book, trying to find a good match for your client to buy a house.
Hey.
It just boggles the mind. And
That's
now
what it was when I got started.
put in a couple of terms, search terms, into the computer, and it tells us exactly what's available in the area that we're looking at, the size that we're looking at, the number of bathrooms that we want, the size lot that we
Price
want.
range.
Yes.
There's not a stat you can think of on real estate that we can't search on the MLS. And with great aftermarket or outside the market software programs like PropStream as it's marketed under, but PropStream, and of course you got Zillow and Redfin. You can go look at those realtor.com and you can get so much information. It's absolutely crazy insane. And I can't imagine how much longer it's going to be that everything will be a virtual tour. And, you know, they've got the technology for it now. They're not going to spend the money to let us access it because they want to milk as much profit as they can on current structure. But holographic listings are not far down the road for us, that you can literally 3D walk through that property, and it's going to be interesting, going to be fun. But numbers are still the numbers.
Yeah, if you talk to any broker with an agency of any size, he will tell you that right now listings with virtual tours get more notice and they get calls quicker than properties that are posted on the MLS without virtual tours. And just about every single property gets posted with a virtual tour. What happens is the people who put that virtual tour together are usually so busy they can't get out right away when that listing comes up. So they take pictures, they put the pictures up for that listing, and they schedule that person to go out and do that virtual tour, which could take a week or more, depending upon the market that you're in and how busy those photographers happen to be. To go out and set up that equipment for that virtual tour. But virtual tours for every single property, unless it sells within a week or two of them posting it, are pretty much going to be the norm moving forward, because properties don't have that virtual tour, don't get that same attention. It's not that they don't sell, if they just don't get that same attention, they don't sell as fast.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that we see, and I'll throw this stat out, then I'll shut up for the rest of the show because I know we're over. But days on market has creeped up a little bit. So right now it's typically in the 36, 37 days it takes to sell a property from the time it's listed. That's up from just from last quarter, just from the fourth quarter of 23, where that average was 33 days. So that days on market has gone up more than 10% already, and we're only 2 months into 2024.
And honestly, those are factors that investors like Bill and I look at more so than how much the property value has gone up, what the demand is. Because if the demand is truly there for buyers, the days on market is going to be a lot lower. The more days on market that particular property is, we have to start wondering two things. First of all, is that market cooling off, or what's wrong with that property? Is it priced wrong? Is it not being described correctly? Is it a dog of a property?
Yeah.
Why are days on market increasing? And overall in a market, we can figure out what's going on with the market. But particular properties, one of the strategies that most of us learn as real estate investors is start looking at the MLS and look for properties that have been on the market for longer, because that might be a potential buy for us. There might be a reason why that property has been on the market longer. And usually it's for us, it's because it needs a lot of rehab or it needs a lot of work, which is a benefit to us because we can get it for a lower price. And the longer it sits on the market, the more motivated the seller is to get rid of the property. But overall in a market, it's a factor. What makes that market, what's driving that market to slow down, or what's driving that market to heat up? So there's different ways to look at all of the data and use it to our advantage and to our benefit. And that's really what it's all about, is making sure that we as investors have the right information. We talked about puzzle pieces the other day, making sure we have the right puzzle pieces and all of the puzzle pieces, and making sure they fit together in a picture that we want. That means making sure that our return on investment is going to be adequate for where we've set our threshold for our return on investment. For some people, it's 10%. For some people, it's 20%. For Bill and I, we like 40%, 50% and above. And those deals are out there enough so that we can literally find them every single day if that's what we have the budget for. Bill, I'll let you wrap it up and we'll get out of here, and we'll see these people next week.
Think you did a great job. And basically what we're telling everybody is, look, got to stay on top of this stuff. Join us. We'll do our best to help keep you on top of the information that you need to be able to make the best decisions going forward with your real estate investing business. That's why we're here. We are eat up with real estate. We love the housing market. It's what both of us do and have done for 30 years plus. And so just come back, join us right here at the Investor Guys podcast. We have a great show as always, brother. And I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Absolutely. Look forward to seeing all of you guys. InvestorGuysPodcast.com for all of the videos and all of the podcasts. You can catch at any podcast outlet, your favorite podcast outlet. You can find Investor Guys Podcast. And Bill at InvestorGuysPodcast.com, Kevin at InvestorGuysPodcast.com. We will see you next time. Until then, happy investing.
See you, everybody.